Dear friends, welcome to Learning About. Now, this week, there is the first week of November 2020. The National Testing Agency is conducting the NET examination on behalf of the UGC. So, as you know, the National Eligibility Test is conducted for determining the eligibility of Indian nationals for the eligibility for assistant professors or the JRF Junior Research Fellowship. Now, this examination has got two papers. Okay, paper 2 is is based on the subject selected by the candidate, and paper 1 is a general paper for all the disciplines. Now, the first paper has got 50 questions. And together like 150 questions, each questions carry 2 marks, and there is no negative marks. And in this paper 150 questions, you get questions from the teaching, questions based on like teaching, research aptitude, communication, computers, aptitude, quantitative aptitude, reasoning, and data interpretation. Now, strategically, this paper 1 is very important because let's say out of this 100, it's very easy to score 90 plus. And even if you get, let's say, half of the 200 marks, together it comes to 190. Now, if you get somewhere around 190, you'll definitely be appearing on the top 6% of the list of people who appeared, that is the qualified list. So strategically this is very important, and this is an easy area where you can score 90 plus. Now, in this video, I'm going to concentrate only on the aptitude, reasoning, and the data interpretation part. Okay, so, and see, if you look at the syllabus that is given in the notification, okay, it looks like, like it is pretty big, right? Of course, you should look at the syllabus, and please, wherever required, please pause the video, whether looking at the complete syllabus or looking at the questions, wherever required, please pause the video. See, though it is important, like to look at the syllabus and like see what are the topics. It is at the same time, like sometimes it is scary. It looks like vast. The number of questions, it's about like 12 to 14 questions out of 50 in paper 1. Okay, I'm talking about the aptitude, reasoning, and the data interpretation part. Now, the best way to prepare for this part is to look at the previous year questions. Okay, you can practice on that. You may not get the same question repeated, but you will definitely get similar questions. Okay, similar questions. So for example, here if you take DI, okay, in the syllabus they say bar chart, histograms, pie chart, table chart, line chart. Okay, so you can get data based in any of these forms, and you'll have to answer. But if you look at the previous papers, most often you get only the table chart. Okay, and the questions are pretty simple. Okay, like percentage increase, percentage change, comparison, and all that. Okay, or you get questions on average. Okay, so how many variables are performed more than the average and less than the average, and so on. The questions are pretty simple, so you have to, it is very important that you solve the previous year papers. So this paper that I'm going to solve was held last year, December 2019, and one of the days, I think 6th of December, and it's a shift 1 paper. So the first question here is about a person buying 3 items. Each item is like 1500, and 2 items costing 1800 each, and he was offered a discount of 10%. And what is the average cost of the items? Now, average, as you know, it is sum of all the items divided by the number of items. That's a formula for average. Now, we know the number of items is like this 3 and 2, totally 5 items. Now, let us just try to find the sum. So 3 items each costing 1500 plus 2 items each costing 1800, right? So that's 4500 plus 3600. So together it is 8100. Now in this a discount of 10%, that's 810. Okay, So after that, what is remaining is like 7290. Yes, 7290. So that's the sum, 7290, and we know a total of 5 items, 3 plus 2. Okay, so that is, what is the average then? 1458 rupees, 1458. Answer option B is the answer for this question. Right. Now the next question. So number series, finding the next number in the series or missing number of the series. So you can expect, like many patterns here. Okay, so it can be like, like n square or n cube, or n square plus or minus 1, n cube plus or minus 1, or it can be based on prime numbers and so on. Okay, that is consecutive prime numbers, or the differences prime numbers. So most often you have to look at the difference between each of the consecutive terms. Okay, so that therein you will get an idea. Now in this question I will not look at the difference between the consecutive terms. Okay, so I don't see any pattern like n square or n cube, right? So I don't see prime numbers also, right? I will not look for the difference between consecutive numbers, because like from 3 it is going to 2, that is, it is coming down. So if it is in complete ascending order or complete descending order, maybe I'll just look for the difference between consecutive terms. So here maybe I look for the difference between the alternate terms. Okay, so 3 to 11 it is plus 8, 11 to 27 is plus 16, this is plus 24. So as you can see, there's a difference of 8. The difference between the differences is 8. Now let me look at the other set. 2 to 14, it's an increase of 12. 14 to 34, it's an increase of 20. So here again from 12 to 20 you see an increase of 8. So next number could be this 20 plus another 8, that could be like 28. So add 28 to 34, that is 62. You find 62 in the answer choice A. So answer for this question is answer option A. Now to the next question. So it's a question on ages, and so it says a man's age is 50 and the son's age is 2/5, which means it is 20. And after the question is, after how many years the ratio will be 5:3. Now see, most of the age questions you can look at the answer choice and solve. You can also do that here, or alternatively, since it's a very easy question, you can also use equations. So 50 years, add n, and then 20 years is the, now the question is about the man to the son's ratio, like after n years. Okay, so 50 plus n by 20 plus n should be equal to 5/3. Now you can solve this question by completing the equation, finding the value of n you can do, or you can substitute the given answer choices instead of n and then find. So either way you can do, right? So let me just try the first method here. So you get 3 into 50 plus n is equal to 5 into 20 plus n. So I get 150 plus 3n is equal to 100 plus 5n. So you get 2n is equal to 50, n equal to 25. So I've got the answer option D, 25. Alternatively, I can substitute the 10 instead of n, or 15 or 20 or 25 in that case. So what happens if I use that method? So 50 plus 10 is 60, 20 plus 10 is 30. Now this is 2:1 ratio. This is not my answer. 50 plus 15 is 65, 20 plus 15 is 35. This is not my answer. 20 plus 50 is 70, 20 plus 20 is 40. This is not my answer. Now 50 plus 25 is 75, 20 plus 25 is 45. Now here the ratio is 5/3. So this is my answer. So answer option D again. This in the alternate method as well. Okay, so the answer is answer option D for the third question. Now the fourth one, length of a side of a square is 5 into 5 is increased by 1%. By what percentage? Okay, the area of the square increases. Okay, so area of the square, we know the formula, it is a square. Okay, that is, if you have a square whose sides are a, area of the square is a square. Okay, now the problem with this question is that this number 1% is a problem here, because like 5 centimeter, 1% of 5 centimeters is like 0.05. So the new side value becomes 5.05. Okay, but the advantage with this question is that the increase is given in terms of percentage, and the final question is also in terms of asked in terms of percentage, which means we can say that this information of 5 centimeter to 5 centimeter, it becomes a redundant information, because we don't actually need that to solve this question. So instead of 5 centimeter, it could have been 500 or 100 or 21 or 247, whatever it is. Okay, it doesn't matter, right? So let's just approach it only using percentage. Now, since I'm using only percentage, for convenience, I'll assume my A equal to 100 units. Right. Now, what is my new A? New value, new side, 1% increase. So that becomes 101 units in that case. Now, what is my area, original area? That's 10,000 units. Now, what is my new area? That's 10201. Now, I'm using speed math technique. That's a discussion. I mean, that's a topic for another discussion. Okay, so either you can use a speed math technique, or you can use the conventional way of multiplying, like 101 into 101, or 101 100 plus 1 square, whatever method you want, you can just follow, right? So now we have to find the increase in area. Now another formula here is the percentage change or percentage increase. The percentage change or percentage increase, okay, percentage change or percentage increase can be given by the formula. You can say it is the new value minus original value upon original value into 100. Okay, now using this formula, the new value is 10,201 minus 10,000 upon 10,000 into 100. So this 0 and this 0 goes off. I'm sorry, it's 10,000. Yeah, so you get 201 by 100. That's 2.01 percentage. That's 2% approximately. That's answer option B. Right. Okay. So the key points here is that percentage increase is given, and the question is asked in terms of percentage. So we need the side. We can just use percentage to get the answer. And very importantly, the percentage change formula we are going to extensively use again in the data interpretation part. So percentage change or percentage increases new value minus original value upon original value into 100. So the answer is 2% for this question. The next one, the smallest integer greater than 1. Please don't waste any time in this question. Just look at the given options. Okay, so the question is, the number is a square as well as a cube. Okay, a square and a cube. Okay, now 8 is 2 cube. Now 9 is 3 square. Okay, 36 is 6 square. Now 64, it is 4 cube as well as 8 square. Okay, so this is the answer, and right, it is a square as well as cube. Do not waste any other time. Even if some other answer was given, okay, right, even if some other number is there, you can still, let's say for example 729. Okay, so let's take for example 729. Okay, so this is also a cube as well as square, but let us not worry about that. Okay, because the question is about the smallest integer. So this question is an easy question which you can get the answer using by the answer choice. So do not go for anything else, and it's very easy to find the answer here. So answer is answer choice D. Okay, so number is a square as well as a cube. The other numbers are not possible, only option D. So that's the answer. Now coming to reasoning. Okay, now as far as reasoning, okay, so now this question here, it says if it rains then the drought will end. Okay, so that's a statement made, and what is the conclusion given here? The drought has ended, therefore it rained. So the original statement is if it rains the drought will end, and so the conclusion here is mentioned as the drought has ended, therefore it rained. Now the question is, which kind of fallacy does this commit? Now what is fallacy? Fallacy is a mistaken belief, and especially the one that is based on unsound arguments. Okay, especially the one that is based on unsound arguments. Now, what is happening here? You are given a statement, you have a statement first, and then you have a conclusion based on that, okay, or a deduction. Okay, so this second statement is deducted from the first statement, right? And of course, it is a fallacy. I'll tell you why it is a fallacy. Okay, so you can say the answer is option A, deductive fallacy. Okay, now what is the problem with see, deductive fallacy? You can also call it as a formal fallacy. Okay, the deductive fallacy is the one where, you know, like the conclusion does not follow the premise. The conclusion does not follow the premise. So that is a deductive fallacy. You can also call it as a formal fallacy. Now, what is the problem with this? See, if it rains, the drought will end. Okay, fine. If the drought has ended, therefore it rains. See, drought has ended. There could be so many other reasons why the drought ended. Okay, that is, the water that is required could have been brought by other sources other than rain. Okay, it could have been because of, you know, like a well water or a pond water. Okay, need not necessarily be rain. Okay, right. So I'll give you another example. Okay, so let us say if it is a Christopher Nolan movie, then I have watched it. If I say if it is a Christopher Nolan movie, then I have watched it. Now, can I say I have watched it, hence it is a Christopher Nolan movie? That is not correct. Okay, I have watched it means it can be a Tarantino movie or a Guy Ritchie movie, or, you know, like someone else's, you know, like a movie, right? So if it is a Christopher Nolan movie, then I have watched it. It doesn't mean that if I have watched it, then it is a Christopher Nolan movie. Not necessarily. It can be likewise someone else's movie. So likewise, if the drought has ended, it can also be by other means such as well water or a pond water, etc. So the answer is deductive fallacy is the answer for this question. And the seventh question here: in this hospital, some nurses don't wear white dress. Some doctors have private practice, and medicine prescribed are of high cost. Therefore, the treatment in this hospital is of poor quality. What fallacy does this argument make? Now, see, the clue here is one argument, second argument, okay, and then there is a the third argument. Okay, they just go on adding points. Okay, they are just go on making arguments. Okay, without providing substantial evidence. Okay, so that becomes a fallacy of slippery slope. Okay, fallacy of slippery slope, where with little or no evidence one insists that, okay, a kind of, you know, like a chain reaction that will cause in a huge, you know, like event, okay, an undesirable action, etc. Right. So this is a classic example is what our many politicians, you know, like speak during the elections, especially like they come up with a lot of, you know, like conspiracy theories against their opponents. Okay, so they just, without evidence, they just keep on adding things. Okay, come up with a lot of fancy conspiracy theories. Okay, so that is an example for a slippery slope. Okay, so slippery slope with little or no evidence, one insists that will lead to a chain reaction. Okay, so that is the answer. Okay, so answer is answer option B. Now, for the people who are curious about what is the meaning of the other options, okay, see, fallacy of composition, it is that is the error of assuming that what is true for of a member of a group is true for the group as a whole. Okay, so what is applicable for one student in a class is applicable for the whole class. Okay, no, that is wrong. Now, fallacy of accident is making sweeping generalizations. Okay, so for example, if I say that, okay, so thou shall not kill, right? So that is a correct one, right? So you should not kill. But if I say that, okay, so thou shall not kill, so I will not use pesticides, you know, like for farming, okay, to, you know, like to take away the harmful insects. Okay, so that is not a very valid argument. That is an example for a fallacy of accident. Now, fallacy of division is the error in logic that occurs when one reasons that something is true for a whole must be true for all or some of its part. Okay, so if I make a general statement about a class, it is not necessarily that it is absolutely true for each member of the class. That is not correct. Okay, so that is the example for fallacy of division. So answer for this question is answer option B. Let's move to the next question. So this question is based on, you know, like the rules of syllogisms. So the question here says there are four statements, and we have to find out which of these statements are true. So the first one is middle term should be distributed in at least one of the premises. Now that's the first rule in syllogisms, right? So that statement is correct, and look at the answer choices. The statement 1 figures in only one of the answer choices, so that's answer option C, right? It is better to move on. Okay, again, just for the people who are curious, what is distributed? Now distributed meaning is something that is applicable to the whole of the group. Okay, so for example, if I say all A's or B's, if I say all A's or B's, right? So by Venn diagram I can draw it like this, right? So all A's or B's. Now it is referring to the whole of A. So A is distributed, whereas as far as B is concerned, it is only about part of B. So you can say B is not distributed. Okay, so this is the meaning of distributed. Okay, so so this is rule number 1. So there are 3 important rules. So this is the rule number 1, that is the middle term should be distributed in at least one of the in at least one premise. The second rule is that if the term is distributed in the conclusion, it should be distributed in the premise as well. Okay, so if it is distributed in the conclusion, it should be distributed in the premise as well. And the third rule is that the number of negative premise, okay, so the number of terms, like which are negative in the premise must be equal to the number of negative terms in the conclusion, right? So you can say that like the other 3 are not really right. Okay, so the answer is answer option C for question number 8. The next question, which one of the following is a characteristic feature of an argument? So an argument is a reason or a set of reasons given in support of an idea, or it could even be a theory or an action. Okay, so I repeat, a reason or a set of reasons given in support of an idea, that is the argument. Okay, so an argument should either be valid or invalid. Okay, it is either valid or invalid. This is the right answer. Okay, so these are wrong. Answer for this question is answer option A. Now we have come to the last part, data interpretation. Okay, now so just look at the data here. Very simple table format data. You have 3 companies A, B, C, and the amount of exports in crores is given. And so what, see, the data interpretation, or like changing this data into some other form, we can just decide on those things, or what to do with this data. We can decide these things only after looking at the questions, right? So let's just move on to the question. What is the question number 10? The first question DI is that for which of the following pair of years the total exports from the 3 companies put together are equal? So let's just try to find out the sum for the 3 years. Okay, so 40 plus 90 plus 170, that's 200. Okay, so next year it is 220, next it is 250, then again 250, then it is 270, 260 and 390. The question is, which of the 2 years the sum is same? Okay, so that is 2014 and 15. 2014 and 15. So answer is answer choice D for question number 10. The next one, in which year the absolute difference between the exports of company A and B was minimum. So when we say absolute difference, we have to ignore the sign, whether it is positive or negative, we can just ignore. We just have to find the difference. Now the question is about only company A and B, so here the difference is 50. Between 40 and 90 it is 50. Here it is 20, here it is 20, here it is 10, so that could be the answer. Here it is 20, here it is 50, and here it is 20. Okay, so the answer is here 2015. The absolute difference is only 10, so that's the least difference, the minimum difference. So minimum is the keyword here. The answer is 2015. Question number 12. In how many of the given years were the exports from company A more than its average annual exports over the given years? Okay, average we just saw earlier, it is sum by sum of all the variables by n. So let's just try to find out the sum of this. 4 plus 7 is 11, 16, 24, 35, 41 and 54. So it is 540 is the sum. Totally there are 7 years. So 540 by 7 is approximately 77. So how many years have more than 77, more than the average? It is 80, 110 and 130. That's 3 years. That's answer option B. So a very simple question. Next question, the average annual amount of exports during the given period for company B is approximately what percentage of average annual exports for company C? So company B, it is if you see the total is 630, and here the total is 670, right? So with respect to C, the question is with respect to C, what is B, right? And in terms of percentage, right? Now the problem is the options, okay, are very close, okay, so all are in 90s, okay, so 91, 94 and 93. So we just have to divide and find out, okay. So 67, if I take 0 and 0 here, you have 6300, okay. So as you can guess easily, it is like 9 times for sure. So that's about 603, 270. It's like 67 into 4 is 268. So 94. I think we can stop here and say the answer is answer option C. 94.03 is the answer for question number 13. Only this is a calculation tedious one, otherwise it's an easy question. The last question, what was the difference between the average export of 3 companies in 2017 and the average export of 3 companies in 2012? See, we have already seen 2012 it is like 200, we saw the count, and 2017 it is 260, right? So the difference is 260 minus 200, the difference is 60, okay. And they are asking for average, right? So totally there are 3 companies, okay. So average exports of these 3 companies, okay. So if you look at all 3 together, right, it is 60. So since there are 3 companies, you just divide by 3 the difference in terms of average, okay. See, why I'm not putting 260 by 3 and 200 by 3 means that is in the calculation 3, it's not 260 or 200, they are not divisible by 3. That's why I'm not putting it there. And finally, so either way the answer is going to be the same, okay. I'm just trying to reduce the calculation, right, the effort that is put in calculation. So 60 is the difference, and 3 companies together, so average is 60 by 3, so the 20, that's answer option D. See, for explanation purpose only I have written each and every step, but when you are solving, as far as possible you can try to avoid writing, okay. So in this we have seen 14 questions out of 50 in December 6th shift 1 paper, and I'll also be solving the shift 2 paper in another video. The link to that video is given in the description below. I hope you like my methods. Please give your comments, and if you have any questions, you can post it in the comment below. And please like, share and subscribe to Learning Abroad. Thanks for watching the video. Thank you.